So what we've got here is a fork. This is a garden fork. Normally you can get a smaller one, which is not as long and not as wide. That's called a border fork. Sometimes they call it a lady's fork. Well, that's a very old-fashioned expression. But the garden fork is for digging, and the fork is really useful for aerating the soil, cultivating the soil, and for digging out weed roots. A lot of people think that the spade is great for digging out weed roots as well. It isn't, because it chops them up. You want to get it out like spaghetti, so you use your fork. So again, this is the garden spade, and you'll notice that they're roughly the same length, roughly the same size, because that in its measurement is called a spit. Now a spit is a measurement of around about between 12 and 12.5 inches, which is around about 30 centimetre mark. And that depth, if you can dig the soil down to that depth and get that much topsoil, then you can pretty much grow anything in it. So these are the two of the most important tools. They're great for digging holes, they're great for digging the soil over, and they're great for digging things out like weeds and plants that you don't want anymore. But they're for large areas. You would normally use a smaller one, which would be a smaller spade and a smaller fork. That would be a border fork. The next one, which is again associated with what we're talking about there, which is cultivating, is the rake. So this one is called a garden rake. You can see it's got the tines that are on the end there. And basically it's like a sieve that you put through the soil. It can take out stones, etc., and it can break down the soil so that it is a nice crumbly texture, which is called tilth. And getting the right tilth will be the difference whether you can grow plants in it or not. It also helps to level out the soil, and you can use it upside down, or you can use it around that way. And also, main thing that you look at with rakes are different types of rakes. This is a rigid rake. The other types of rakes are things like springback rakes that you see for the lawn, or leaf rakes. Those are flexible rakes. So they're more for getting loose stuff off the surface. This is still associated with cultivating and digging, but also has the added element of levelling out. The next one is called the hoe. This is called a Dutch hoe, because as you can see, it's got like the letter D on there, and that's how I remember it. And the Dutch hoe you can use for cultivating still, but also you can use it for taking out weeds, in particular annual weeds. So perennial weeds are dug out with a fork because you want to get the whole root out. Annual weeds, you can just slice them off, as long as you get them up before they have turned into flowers and then seeds that will then get them to breed further and further and further. And also it's great for working in between plants. But it's always pushing away, and when you dig with it, it's a slight twist like that. And that will then help cultivate the surface of the soil, which means that you break the crust that's on the top, which allows water and nutrients and air down to the soil to help feed the plants. And it also looks really great, and it looks like you've been there. The other hoe is a draw hoe. Can we just pass that hoe over there? So the draw hoe is different to the Dutch hoe because you are pulling away from yourself. So you're working away and then drawing the soil towards you as you chop through the soil like that. And so that is great for working in between crops. It's great for working in straight lines between things, whereas the other Dutch hoe tends to be more of an ornamental hoe. Again, it has a triangle on the end there. That's great for doing a seed drill. You drag it through the soil and you can create a seed drill with it. And this is probably one of the most oldest tools in the world. It's changed and varied very, very slightly, but still in use today. So those are your major gardening tools. They're made of many different materials. So you might have a handle that's made out of wood, or a shaft that's made out of metal. It might be forged, it might be bolted. You can also get plastic handled tools. So like this fork here has a plastic handle. And also you get different types of handles. So we've got a D handle here, but you can get a T handle. So on the hilt, you can get some that are made out of wood, you get some made out of plastic, some made out of metal. But also you're also looking at the dimensions and the size. These tools aren't really very good for me. As you can see, they're a bit too low. So you can get, I've got a couple of tools down there that are specifically made for taller people, so you don't hurt your back. And that's where the other thing that I'm talking about with these is to use them safely. So for example, like with spades, you have a curved top, which not only makes it stronger, but also prevents like the blade of the spade cutting into your foot and damaging the arches of your feet. So it's looking for things like that. But also when you're using these tools, it's best to wear safety boots. That's something with a reinforced sole and toe, so that if you hit your feet, make impact with your feet, you don't damage your feet. Also, with these tools, using them safely is really important. Most accidents with tools happen when they're left lying on the floor and people trip over them. So we try and leave them standing up. If you've got nothing to lean them against, the great thing is they go into the ground like that, and you can lean other ones against them. The worst culprit to stand on is the rake. And yes, like the cartoon, if you do step on it, it will come up and it will be quite painful wherever it hits you or makes contact. And so that's kind of like a really, really brief sort of summary of the tools. In order to look after them, with the wood, sanding it down and oiling it is important, rubbing rust off and everything like that, and keeping them in a locked, secure place is important so that you know exactly where they are. We've got a shed, and understanding all of those different things about how to maintain them, how to keep them secure, how to use them safely, and what the tool is and what you use it for is important, whether you want to jump from being you know, an amateur gardener to a professional, or you want to get the best out of tools. If you want to be good garden craftspeople, you need to know what your tools are, what to use them for, how to use them safely, and how to maintain them and keep them secure so that you save money and time and everything in the future.